Today I'm going to be looking at this big chunk of equipment, which is a dual DVD recorder, but in the style of a broadcast deck, and it's made for professional use. This thing was from about 2003, so it's well out of date. Of course, sold on eBay as 4 parts not working because they couldn't test, but it was pulled from a working environment. Now that could mean one of two things: it works fine, or it's completely dead. Usually the latter, but I haven't even tried powering it on yet because I figure it's better to do that in the video in case it blows up or releases the magic smoke. At least we get it on camera. So yeah, first things first, I guess let's do that. But this is, whoa, I just moved my whole table. This is a chunky beast, to give you an idea of scale. And as you can see, this rack ear is falling off, but I'm not going to be rack mounting it, so it doesn't really matter. And if it works, I'm going to test it out for its intended purpose. Basically, it's like a VTR, except instead of T, it has DVD. And then, regardless whether it works or not, I'm going to open it up and see what's inside. Oh, and probably the main reason I decided to buy this is because I always have an interest for sort of industrial or commercial equipment that just has a regular old computer motherboard in it, which this almost certainly does based on these inputs and outputs. In fact, I think this piece here comes off and is just some kind of plastic shroud around the actual ATX motherboard backplate. You know the thing I mean. And obviously, as you can see from the back, this is intended for professional use. The major clues, of course, are SDI and AES EBU in and out. But of course, it also has XLR ports for audio in and out, composite video, RCA for audio as well, which, you know, is consumerish anyway, and component video, as well as digital video with a little wee FireWire port. I think that's just a mini FireWire port, although I think it's a DV port officially, but it works with a FireWire standard, if I recall correctly. And PCM Dolby digital out, so yeah, NS video. Kind of did that out of order, but you get the idea. We have timecode, Genlock, and remote in and out. But you also know it's professional equipment because this is probably just a simple RS-232 serial port on this motherboard, but it's labeled UPS, so this is clearly meant to be connected to an uninterruptible power supply. Although that's kind of weird they expect that, being as it only has one of its own power supplies, which again looks like a standard ATX size power supply. It does have screw terminals to retain the AC cable, which is kind of unusual, at least for consumer equipment, and certainly for ATX power supplies. So, yeah, I think a little fan behind this plastic piece. But anyway, that's the rundown of the back of it. And I said it's like a VTR, except with a DVD instead of a T, instead of a tape. Well, or 2 tapes, I guess, because it has all the standard transport controls you'd expect to find, sort of menu controls, display function, infrared remote input, which I do not have, and a 1/4-inch headphone jack, as well as front-mounted USBs for a keyboard and mouse, which is nice, I suppose. But without further ado, let me get, well, before I connect the power, I'm going to connect a VGA cable to the output so that we can see what happens if and when it does power up. Actually, no, screw it. Let's just power it up right away. Oh, and in all that waffling around in the intro, I forgot to mention that it's a Pioneer model number PRV-LX1. Yeah, there you go, in case you want to look it up. There's not too much information about it online, although I was able to find the manual for it, which is cool. It's got a hard power switch around back, which is now on. That light came on yellow, probably meaning standby. And let's see. Okay, green is always good. It made the standard PC computer boot noise. And flashing "please wait." When I was researching this thing, I did find that that's a common error message. Well, it's not an error message per se, but the problem is this will persist here forever potentially because the BIOS battery is dead. And that's the BIOS battery on the PC motherboard that's inside of it. It's a standard like CR3032 battery, but to my understanding it's kind of buried, so we might have to open this up before we can actually test it out. Alright, well, I let it sit here for like 3 minutes, and it's still doing that. I think that means we have the BIOS battery problem at minimum. So, time to open it up. And right off the bat, let me get these rack ears out of the way. And then I can only surmise that all of these screws on top have to come out. And voila. And indeed, it does look like we just have a couple of sort of consumer grade looking PC style 5.25-inch DVD recorder drives with an IDE interface connected as master and slave because they're both on the same cable. This also apparently contains a 120 gigabyte, if you could believe it, because that's amazingly large nowadays, hard drive. And it looks like these two modules on top are for the SDI and AES EBU inputs and outputs. Now, and in fact, if we rotate this upside down, or right side up, it says SDI AES EBU output board, and this one is the input board. And the manufacture date here is actually February 2007, July 2007, May 2007, and May 2007. So this was probably manufactured in 2007, but I believe it was designed and released in 2003. And as I said, I am going to fully disassemble this because there are some, I guess, yep, they're PCI cards in here. I want to see what those are all about, as well as what modules are below these AES EBU SDI modules. And when I was reading about it online, everyone said, oh, the BIOS battery is buried. You pretty much have to take the whole unit apart just to get to the battery, which is strange because I can actually see it right through here, right down there. And now so can you, at least kind of. It's right down there. And it's not like it's super accessible in its design because I can't really get my hand in there right off the bat. But I'm wagering I could get that out there with a needle nose pliers or something similar. Maybe just take out a couple of these cables, which will be easy enough to put back. I would also like to say it's very clean in here. Like, this was definitely not used in a dusty environment.
After faffing for some time.
Oh, maybe that's what people meant about it being a pain to get the battery out of there. I think the battery itself is spot welded onto the battery holder? That doesn't seem right. So you can see the battery is under this little metal tab, but when I pull that metal tab up, the battery kind of moves with it. I thought that was just like a dimple on top to press down on the battery, but I think it's actually a spot weld. That would be obnoxious. Why the hell would they do that? Well, you know, here's the thing. Yeah, CMOS checksum error. I was treating this like it's a piece of industrial equipment or commercial equipment, when the whole point of this is that it's a computer. So probably if I hit F1 to continue, it will just boot up, regardless of the state of the BIOS battery. I don't know why I'm getting sidetracked with that, to be honest. Yeah, there we go. To find the graphical user interface, why wouldn't it just be here? Also, this looks like X Windows to me. Is this running Linux or Unix? Or some Nix-like operating system? Alright, well, there we go. I didn't do anything too crazy. All I did was connect the SDI output to my switcher. And here's their beautiful, beautiful menu system. Whew. Definitely 2003-ish. So is this only a 40 gig hard drive, or is that 40 gigs of free space? Oh, and it is NTSC or PAL compatible, depending. Oh, you kind of have to really double-click these. Wow, this is a really old-school user interface. All right. So we can remote control it via RS422A, or do timecode over that port. I'm going to turn external sync off, because I'm probably not going to be doing that. Oh, do I have to double-click this? Yeah. And then we can do stuff like edit the DVD menu, and so forth. Ooh, you change the font. All right. Kind of cool. Again, very clunky interface, but hey, it was a product of its time. Oh, and I should note now the display is just showing zeros for the time code. But I wonder what happens if we press play. Did anyone record something on here and leave it on here? House floor. Okay, interesting. Oh, and perhaps more importantly, just stop that for a second. Are there DVDs in the drives? No. You can't see them, but they're both empty. Yeah. So whatever we're playing right now must be coming off the hard drive. I'm going to skip forward. I think that was a chapter skip, but it didn't do anything, so I'm guessing there's no chapters. Oh, here we go. House floor. Is this the state senate or state house? I didn't hit anything, it just went back to stop, so I guess that was the entire content of it. Yeah, it looks like the only thing on it is this. And then it cuts out, yeah. Well, it's kind of funny when you find old video from other people on these type of machines. Sadly, nothing of interest. Before I try to record to it, one thing I want to check, this is the DVD I had chilling out closest to where I am right now. My wife and I cleaned out our DVD collection recently. I mean, they were in boxes in the basement for years, untouched. So we decided to get rid of them, but we saved a few titles, like the more memorable ones that we either got as gifts or that were really cool box sets. And this I saved because, as far as I can tell, this is lost media. I don't think you can buy this or download it or stream it anywhere. And I have it down here because I was ripping it to keep in my own collection, so I don't have to keep physical media standing by. There is a chance these DVD drives are dead, of course, but that kind of looked good. And there is a drive select button and drive LEDs indicating which drive's active. So yeah, I guess that would be what it records to as well. So you can record to DVD and hard drive, or 2 DVD drives at once, which is good for backup. I mean redundancy. But does that affect play as well? Like if we set DVD drives and hit play, yeah, that's probably the Kids in the Hall video. And even this professional machine won't let me chapter skip the FBI warning. But yeah. Alright, so we can be relatively assured the left drive works. I mean, it is pretty cool. This thing is almost 20 years old, and it still works fine. Other than that dead BIOS battery, I think that was the only problem with the original startup. And does this drive work? Ooh, maybe not. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon, because it's not getting that green LED that appeared on the other one, and I can't hit play. But I don't know if that's by design. Oh, okay, I just didn't have the drive exclusively selected there. Cool. Yeah, okay, it's working. So it works for playback. Let's see if it works for record. First, let me just try recording to the internal hard disk, which again, really glad that still works. And then we'll try recording to DVD. Well, not this DVD, I have some DVD-Rs. Alright, well, I got a period-appropriate camera. Actually, this camera probably predates the DVD recorder by quite a bit. And also some blank DVD-Rs, which are probably about as old as this machine, so they might not still be good. And then last but not least, I got a DV cable, so we can pipe digital video from this camera into the DVD deck. And incidentally, you don't have to operate the menu system with a mouse. You can use the arrow keys and the enter key on the front. Oh, and even going to this menu, power on time was 8,764 hours. But not much hard drive or DVD drive time, so this thing mostly just sat, plugged in, and powered on without doing anything. And let's get the best quality possible out of this thing. I'm going to pump the encoder bitrate up to its max, which looks like 9.644 megabit. Oh, it does support 16:9, that's nice. Although we're going to be doing 4:3 right now. Change the input to DV, and the audio input's already in DV, because I changed that presumably. Nice. But no DV input. Shit. And the camera, as you can see, is on, and it does work. Alright, well, that camera I think only does input on the DV port, but apparently it does do video output on its S-video port. So there we go. And you can see at the top of the screen it does say standby. That is the camera's display. The DVD recorder is actually recording, although it's recording to the hard drive right now. There is a weirdly horrendous delay though here. Let me just bring this up side by side so you can see what I mean. So right now I got it pointed directly at the DVD logo, and I'm just going to move that over to the side of the screen so you can see it. And there, now it moved over to the side of the screen so you can see it. And I'm going to do a whip pan to the right. Well, not really a whip, but you get the idea. And you should see the other DVD logo. Yeah. And all I'm doing is recording right now. Come on. Show the record button. So that's interesting because you can use this machine for like a video delay. But I think that might be changeable in the settings. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably changed by this pre-roll time. Let's see if we change that to 1 second, if it's less of a delay. Okay, let's hit record and get this camera in here. No, still got a massive delay. I just want to get an idea of how long the delay is. So right now, in real life, I'm seeing 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's about a 5-second delay, so I guess I didn't change that. Well, you know what? Rather than worry about that, let's see if we can record to an actual DVD. These are Sony DVD-Rs from an unknown vintage. And change the drive select to just DVD1. Oh, can you not record just DVD1? What if we have a set to DVD1 and 2, and we only have one disc in there? No. Alright, well then fine. I'll put the DVD in the other drive. And record. Oh, hey, it looks like it's recording. Alright. And I could get really awkward video of myself talking, but I'm going to have to sync the audio up in post because of the 5-second delay. It's actually not horrible image quality. I mean, other than my face, but you know what I mean. Well, yeah, so I'll have to sync this up in post, but there we go. And stop. Oh, because DVD, well, it should be multi-session. So I don't see why you couldn't record to it more than once, right? But I think it's actually... Is it finalizing it, or what's it doing? It's still writing. Oh, I think it might have buffered it to the hard drive first, and now it's writing to the DVD? Alright, well, it's completely stopped now. Okay, well, that looks absolutely horrendous. I mean, aside from my face, I think the lower bitrate's not doing the video quality any favors here. Let me see if I can change the bitrate and then record some more to that disk. And it shows the space free on the DVD is 4.32 gigs, and the estimated amount of record time. Well, it should be the exact amount of record time since it's a constant bitrate. Alright, now with the higher bitrate enabled, get that recording, and now maybe I'll look slightly better in this higher bitrate. Also, probably would look better if I could actually use the DV output on this camera, or use the DV port as an output, but unfortunately not. Anyway, let's look at this video. And I guess it's got to write. I guess it's writing to the DVD's table of contents or whatever. But yeah, it's using it as a multi-session disc, so that's cool. And let's see if it plays the. It's playing the first track. So let me skip to the second one, or first chapter, I guess. Yeah, I mean the video quality definitely looks a little better, but of course it's still SD quality video and analog, at least in the path to boot. So you're going to get what you're going to get with that. Well, lo and behold, the thing actually does work. I'm shocked. I mean, I figured at least one of the drives would be dead, or the entire motherboard would be dead, or the display wouldn't work, or something. Really, I think the only thing wrong with it is that BIOS battery, which is obviously an excusable issue to have, and whatever this tape is holding in. Actually, what is that tape holding in? Well, let's find out, because now that we know it works, and a general idea of how it works, let's see what it's made of. Which is going to be a lot of, like, PC parts, I have a feeling. But anyway, let's dive in. I didn't even notice that the front panel is damaged, or the tabs that hold it in place are damaged. That's probably from shipping, if I had to guess, because this thing is otherwise in pretty pristine shape. I don't think it was abused during its lifetime of use. But I guess let's start from the top and work our way down. These are some real nice copper screws. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely keeping these. Don't even understand why they are copper, because they're just going into steel. In fact, that seems like a bad choice. That could just lead to electrolysis, like corrosion between the screw and the steel. Didn't happen, so, but if there was some moisture present, it would happen, if you're using this in a humid environment. So, weird choice. And then it looks like the module slides out the back, but you would have to undo those screws inside before you can remove it, and there's also these ribbon cables that would have to be removed, so you can't just pull the module out. It's not, well, I was going to say it's not modular. I mean, technically it's modular. It's just not easily swappable modular. Oh, and this, oh, maybe it doesn't, oh, it doesn't pull out the back. This is just a bezel, or a plate. It actually does need to come in, and these two screws need to come out, though those weren't even screws that had to come out, come to think of it. Alright, well, I completely misunderstood that, but it's kind of free. And I'm guessing that's just for power, and that's the ribbon cable. It's actually under this piece of metal as well. That's sort of weird construction, and it's got this plastic rivet that pops out. That's, yeah, it is a plastic rivet. But the other end of the ribbon cable is actually, well, I'll show you in a second. Oh, there's like a, oh. So, I mean, this is almost too well made. There's like a belt and suspenders thing where there are two tabs here that lock into these very interestingly shaped notches. So you can't just pull it out. You have to sort of maneuver it out. But anyway, there is the module. And if you're curious, that's what it says. And only these two connectors were actually well connected. This one maybe for factory testing. Not sure. It doesn't say. And I have a feeling this input board is going to be much the same. Ooh, it does have a switch. 1, 2, or 3. And actually, this one does have 2 ribbon cables connected. Oh. Well, shiver me timbers, it looks like I actually did have to take this out because I think this actually locks the module in with those tabs on top. Huh. Yeah, now it can be moved up and out. That is, I mean, almost too well made. But there we go. And so then the next thing I'm curious about is, I'm guessing there's a switch on, it looks like dip switches actually. So I just want to open this module up and see if maybe it's marked on the PCB what those do. Okay, well there's the board. We got a Xilinx FPGA, I'm guessing. A bunch of other chips. I am not sure what they do. I'm not going to look up every single chip in this entire thing. That'll take forever. But the dip switches are on the other side of the board. And these nuts have to come off to get the board out. Nothing like the wrong tool for the right job. I mean, it's fine. The fact of the matter is, I said I was going to save those copper screws, and that's because most of this thing is going in the bin when I'm done with it. Sad to say, almost, because it's a really well-made piece of equipment. It's just, it has outlived its usefulness by a couple of decades, or thereabouts. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there that wants to record to DVD, but I am definitely not one of them. Although I am tempted to, like, desolder these BNC connectors. Those look like they're pretty good quality. And BNC connectors are always useful for other projects and or replacement on other equipment. And again, just speaking to the construction quality, these are like actual separate metal pads to act as sort of both washers to keep the screws from impinging on the circuit board itself, on the PCB, but also as ground clips. Because you can see they're actually soldered to the PCB extensively. All 4 of them. I mean, that's an anal retentive attention to detail. Oh, is it not dip switch? It looked like dip switches from the other side. Okay, so, oh, maybe it's just LED. Oh, it's just LEDs. They look like tiny little dip switches from up there. Okay, they're just indicators. And a million test points. Well, maybe not a million, but these are all labeled as test points over here. Test points, test points, test points. Is this board made by Pioneer? Yeah. Well, at least it has Pioneer's name on it. I mean, kudos to the engineers at Pioneer. This is ridiculous. This is really nice. Well, I guess this crossbar comes off next. Actually, this ribbon cable's still attached, but yeah, let's get that out of the way. And this big board here appears to be the analog input-output board, or at least one of them. Oh, it's a double stack of boards. And that's where all the XLR and BNC connectors are for the analog ins and outs. And also maybe a power distribution board up here. And up here is where the SDI adapters or modules connected. And what is up with these big steel weight-looking things? Oh yeah, heat sinks. Ah. Oh, and they're actually pressed into this cover plate. Wow. That was on that chip over there. That's a huge heatsink pad. The other two have much smaller pads on them. But yeah, those are just for heat dissipation through to the other side. Damn, Pioneer. And these are power supply connectors. So as you can see, they're all labeled ground 3.3 volts, 2.5 volts, and then I'm guessing this is probably another power connector, maybe? This one does not list voltages, and it's got a resistor across each pair. So that's probably signaling. Well, again, I'm not tracing out this entire circuit board, and I'm not really concerned about it. I really just want to get a general vibe of what's going on in here. Oh, these are the lifty kinds. Ah. And all of these ribbon cables are going to PCI cards that we'll check out in a second. So they all went to this top board. Might even save those heatsink pads. I mean, they're probably good quality. So down here we got what looks like a Pioneer ASIC of some kind. I have no idea what that is, of course. Not offhand. I mean, maybe I could look it up, but right now I have no idea. Another FPGA over here, and another Pioneer labeled chip over here. And then up here, an LSI chip. And then down here, WinBond. I'm guessing that's RAM. Could be flash storage, though. I actually think this board is sitting on a tray that would come out with the board attached. But might as well release the board first. Who cares in this particular case? Oh, screw in the middle. And again, every screw has one of these metal tabs on it that's soldered to the board and presumably to the ground plane. I can't get it out of the cage though. Okay. And voila, that's liberated. Not much to see on the back. And should be able to slide it out now. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, even more chips on the back here. Got another Pioneer chip, Toshiba, Mitsubishi. Ooh, they're covering all the Japanese manufacturers. Oh, there we got Texas Instruments. Another TI chip. Really the whole kit and caboodle. Lots and lots of test points again. Very well made board. Looks almost beautiful in a way. And so let me back up and say that this is the analog interface board. I mean, it did connect to that top board via this connector here. Yeah, this handles all the analog I/O. Got a connector here. What's next? Is that a soldered ground point? Yes, this isn't a power supply cable. This is signaling. But it's got this little thing next to it that I don't think is a push-on connector. I think it's soldered. Well, like I said, I don't really plan on using this thing ever again, so I'm just going to cut it. And that was actually... Oh, no, that was just... Whoa. Is that cable retention, or is that like the equivalent of a ferrite bead for interference suppression? Yeah, I don't know. That was cool, though. No, I think it was just cable retention, because down here, these are a couple of power supply cables coming from the motherboard. And yeah, it just sort of wraps around them and appears to hold into the case. Man, this thing is well made. Like, no zip ties for them. Custom solution. Then from the analog board, this ribbon cable here also goes to one of the PCI cards. Oh, I have a feeling to get this board out, I'm going to have to unscrew every connector on the back, maybe? Oh, maybe? Yeah, I am. Okay, well, people on the internet did say it was very difficult to get into the motherboard down here, and now I'm starting to see why. And look, not only is this analog board screwed down, but it's also got a couple of clips on either side, so you actually need to bring the board back and then up. So simply unscrewing it is not enough to actually get it to pop out. And again, although I have no use for the unit itself, I may salvage some of these connectors. Because again, just based on the build quality of this thing, these have to be decent quality XLR connectors, and those are always useful. Oh, that bottom, this bottom piece is a separate assembly, I guess. And I think we are liberated, just about. Yep. Okay. Analog interface board. Not too much in the way of excitement up here. But, yeah, that's the top one. Then we got this bottom one with, I guess, some filter caps. And this one was on the bottom, so this is the output. And all the inputs are on board, this one. which I guess makes sense. You'd want the best signal path possible to the inputs on a DVD recorder. On a DVD player, you'd want the outputs to have the best quality. Not that this can't play DVDs, it's just talking primary function. And this motherboard is from the AGP era, although I did just notice something. When I had it powered up, it seemed to indicate that it was a 40 gig hard drive, but this says 160 gig on the back here. So I don't know if it's on its second drive. Someone replaced that at some point. But now we can see sort of the reason I came in here in the first place, the motherboard. I mean, this fan is pristinely clean. So this thing was in a zero dust environment, meaning it was not in my basement. At least not while it was operating. I mean, it's been in my basement for a little while. Just haven't gotten around to disassembling it. Another piece of metal. And that sort of, I think was... Oh no, the PCI cards are actually screwed in. I thought maybe they were just being retained by that crossbar. But no. Yeah, should come free. Oh wait, no, we got a cable still attached to it. Oh man. Okay, that's not a great design. So here is the problem. This PCIe card is retained by a screw all the way down here, but you can't get a straight screwdriver into that screw because these motherboard headers, these motherboard connectors are in the way. This is Ethernet and USB stacked on top of each other. This one, interestingly, is probably audio, and it's right behind here. Completely inaccessible forever, at least until you get the motherboard out. So I'm going to have to get an alternate screw-driving solution, unless this cage comes out. Oh, I think it might. Ah, I mean, I was just saying how well engineered this thing is. So let me take... That's a wildly long screw. Okay, let me get this fan out of the way. And wow, they put... I mean, this is pretty serviceable if you know what you're doing, I guess. I'm in here for the first time, but if I was a service engineer, there's a connector just inside for the fan. So that comes right off. No problem at all. And that would be a common part that would need to be replaced, because fans do not last forever, as we all know. And then I think if I take out these three screws, that will allow the PCI cage to come out with the card still in it. Yeah, I just saw the card move. Yeah, this one's still, well, let's see. It should be attached to the cage, but does it want to come out? Ah! Oh, okay. Each one, it's not a cage. Each one has its own bracket. But it can't really pull up. So I think, does this crossbar have to come out first? Or just this retention clip, maybe? Yeah, that was the trick. That was the trick, more or less. Doing it in a ham-fisted way, but yeah, we'll take a look at this board in a second, along with the other one. True surrounds. This has got to be audio. Oh, we still got a connector attached to this one. But I should have known Pioneer wouldn't do me dirty by making that screw inaccessible down there. My apologies to the engineers. Alright, so this is the board that almost certainly must deal with audio, because it's got a chip labeled True Surround, another Xilinx Spartan FPGA, and a sort of anonymous looking chip. Definitely have to look up the model of that one. But it doesn't even have like a manufacturer's mark on it. This must be something fairly custom made for this unit, or at least for Pioneer's line of similar units. We got Samsung back here. I'm guessing that's RAM or flash storage. Another one there, and then maybe RAM and then flash in the middle. Not sure. Then here's the other PCI card. Pioneer chip, FPGA, another sort of anonymous looking chip like the other one. Here we maybe have some RAM on the front. So we got Samsung and Hynix, and really nothing of note on the back. And just a lot of connectors. And now that those two PCI cards are out, I mean, those were the only methods of interface to the computer, because now this is pretty much just a bog standard motherboard under here with nothing else fancy connected to it. And this crossbar, I guess, is just used mostly for cable retention, because we got two retention clips there, and we have this one that was around there. These plastic ones are more what I would expect. Got a little bit of an extender here for the 4-pin CPU power. Probably going to be keeping that. Style of Molex extension could always come in handy for any number of things. Here we have... that port's labeled COM2. It's got 3 wires that go to the front panel. Check that out in a moment. And then other than that, got the IDE cable for the drives. Ooh, this is actually a locking connector. Fancy. It wasn't locking going into the back of the drives, by the way. Yeah, this has retention clips on the side. Very nice. I mean, as IDE cables go, this is a really nice quality looking one. Made by 3M. Really tight ATX power connector and IDE cable. Going to the hard drive that's over here, mounted vertically. And some power distribution cabling to all the computer-related peripherals. Yeah, I mean, nice cable management. They did a neat job of this, I guess. Ah, the hard drive is in a sled. There are 2 screws up here, and probably 2 more at the bottom. So I think I have to take this side panel off in order to get the hard drive out. And probably get this rack rail off, too. And these screws were quite well torqued down. Yeah, so the rack rail, this is very heavy steel. Very heavy. And that was screwed directly into the case via the side panel. Because it sits on top of the side panel thusly. And so yeah, you can see right there, hard disk drive handled with care. 1, 2, 3, and then 4 screws. So warranty void if you remove the drive, which this sticker had never been removed. So it must be the original drive in there, or it was replaced by Pioneer at some point. Ah. And of course the drive's upside down, so we can't see the model number from here. Looks like Western Digital, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Western Digital. And it is a 160 gig drive. I mean, a good drive for its day. Not very useful now. It doesn't look like the motherboard's on a separate tray or anything, so I think I'm just going to take it out the standard motherboard way of just, you know, removing all the screws and lifting it out. But I want to get this cable clip out of the way. There we go. This connector is front USB. Connects right there on the motherboard. And this header goes to a board that's under the 2 DVD drives that we'll take a look at last, I guess. And those are the front panel switches for the motherboard. You know, power, reset, power LED, that sort of thing. And that is it for connections to the motherboard. And the board that's under the 2 DVD drives appears to be like a power distribution board primarily, because the ATX power supply goes into that board. At least the motherboard connector for it does. And then the power cable that's actually connected to the motherboard comes from that board via a little jumper. Well, actually a big jumper, because look how thick it is. I think that's all the screws. Yep. And the motherboard just lifts right out. And as you can see, there were quite a few connectors that were not visible through the back of the chassis of this thing. For example, the PS2 connectors, these USB connectors, the parallel port, and these audio connectors. They were all hidden from view in the back. So you can see UPS is the serial port, that was the VGA port, 2 USB ports and Ethernet up there. But we got a whole heck of a lot more up here that wasn't visible. And I believe this is just a piece of plastic. I'm just wondering if taking this off would render the parallel port visible. Oh, it was clipped in as well as screwed in. I mean, they're really all about the belt and suspenders. One of the clips broke off, but that's okay because we're not using this ever again. Okay, and then this shield in here, which you would usually see something like that on any ATX motherboard, is actually screwed in. So although this case was designed for an ATX motherboard, it wasn't... Oh no, it's screwed from the bottom as well. Wow. Sorry about that, had to take it off camera, dangle it off the table so I get that out. But now, yeah, it did have to slide to the side because there were 2 tabs holding it in there. But yeah, that's the shield. So that's essentially what that allows through. So that does allow the audio ports through and the parallel port. but then the audio ports are covered by the actual metal of the chassis, and the parallel port was weirdly just covered up by that plastic surround. And I'm going to have to go back to the earlier footage to find out what kind of CPU this was. I guess I could just take the cooler off, but it's not really that important. It was a Celeron of some capacity, and it is from the AGP graphics card generation, as you can see. 3 PCI slots. I mean, not too much else to say about it. We got 2 IDE connectors, a floppy drive connector, pretty much what you'd find in a standard motherboard of its day. Well, a cheap motherboard of its day. For example, it only has 2 DIMM sockets, and it has 256 megabytes of RAM on this one module. And no, that's not DDR3 RAM, that's regular old DDR, 333 megahertz. Absolutely appalling by today's standards, but of course there was a time when this would have been cutting edge. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like the motherboard was customized in any way. Oh, and I think I was completely wrong about this being spot welded on, maybe? Oh no, maybe not. Why is that battery so hard to get out? No, it's definitely moving. No, the battery definitely comes out. You see that little dimple there sort of look like a spot weld, and this battery connector is probably the tightest I've almost ever seen. Like, that has an incredible amount of force pushing the battery down, and it's a Toshiba 2032. But just based on the construction quality of this entire device, I'm going to guess that despite this being a fairly low-end motherboard, being as it's compact, only has 2 DIMM sockets, it's probably still high quality. And obviously it's pretty reliable because none of these caps leaked, none of them are bulging, and of course this thing did work after almost 20 years. Well, 18 years to be fair, because manufacturing device was 2007, it's 2025 at this current time. And just for posterity, there's the board model number right next to where I just took the battery out. Not that any of that really matters, but yeah, that's the board they put in this unit. Now the question is, do I bother saving this board in case I ever want to do a quote-unquote retro build, like, you know, from the Windows XP era? Don't know. Probably not going to keep this. No, I'll probably keep the fan. The fan's always useful. And now I guess what's left to be done is take, like, it looks like to take the drives out, I probably have to take this cross member out, which means I have to take the front panel off, which is kind of already off on the top anyway, but not on the bottom. So let me flip this over. And now actually, I never did reveal the mystery of what this Scotch tape was holding closed. Maybe in a different model revision, that would have revealed something, but there's really nothing of note behind this. And probably the same on this side. Nope. Plastic's getting a little brittle. Oh, maybe behind that one there was supposed to be a little piece of filter material. And this does have a tiny bit of dust on it, obviously. Very thin layer. This one did not have the filter material, so I'm thinking it probably didn't run much without that because it's so clean on the inside. So what does hold this on? It's still being held on the bottom really well, but there's no obvious latches over here. So I'm thinking it's maybe actually on the top, or we got to get into it from the top. Well, obviously, since this is broken anyway, I can take this cross member out without removing the front panel, which is not really how it's supposed to go, I don't think, but, you know. No, that's not enough to get that off. Oh, it actually wraps around. This cross member is not just a cross member, it actually wraps around the front a little bit. So I definitely have to get this front panel off first. Maybe it does just snap in. Oh, the doors probably have to come off the DVD drives first. I mean, the doors came off the DVD drive anyway, at least the one on the right. Doesn't look like I broke anything, it just snaps back in, I think. Oops. Well, if you didn't notice from the sound, I took it at the edge of the bench thinking that maybe it dropped down, but no. As I was trying to just maneuver it and wiggle it to see where it would let go, it just catastrophically let go and just started snapping, so I just kind of went with it. I mean, the plastic is very, very brittle, And it turns out the two sections in the front that these were covering, there was screws under there. Okay, live and learn though. Not that I really need to learn this, because I'll never take one of these apart again. Oh, well, maybe I should have freaking read the text that's right here. That says, when removing the entire faceplate, you must also remove the two screws located under the filter cover, or risk permanent damage to the faceplate. Well, I've permanently damaged the faceplate. Obviously, if I was doing this as a real repair job, I would have more carefully inspected it, and probably ended up reading that. But since I don't care, this is going in the trash anyway. I don't need the faceplate to remain in good condition. But that was just a dumb miss on my part, regardless. So we got these two cables going to the faceplate, and that's really all there is. And then some, it looks like they're conformally coated, maybe? Yeah, I think they're conformally coated, these circuit boards. And this one actually have some plastic over them. And these two boards are the eject and LEDs. That's all that's on these two. This board is for the transport controls. And this board is for the display and all the other buttons and LEDs. And additionally, it's got this foam, I guess, to help seal around the air filters. And then more foam around the DVD drive covers, I guess, to keep airflow from coming into the DVD drives. Again, really good construction quality on this. I feel bad breaking it, but I mean, I can't imagine this is useful to anyone at this point. And for those of you that were curious, this is where the faceplate attached to the front. And that is what I broke. But the plastic was so brittle, you can see how big a chunk that came out in. But now, let's get the DVD drives out. Oh. That one is just a little too buried for my electrical screwdriver. Electrical screwdriver, that's a weird thing to call it. And that should, oh yeah, that is enough to get the DVD drives out. Okay. And as you can see, this one's missing its faceplate. This was drive 1, actually. Oh, maybe I have done. I did break it off. Crap. Well, I say crap. I mean, realistically, this is kind of a weird, bulky drive sled cover, and it's got this extra mechanism that sticks out the front of the drive. So, using this on a standard computer case with this sticking out the front, this would just protrude in a really ugly fashion. So, you know, not really terribly reusable. What? There's a heat sink. Wait. Yeah, there's a heat sink for the DVD drive. You can see where this pad sort of like left some residue, and you can see the outline of it on the bottom of the drive. I've never seen a heat sink on a DVD drive before. I guess that's to protect it during long-running burns. It's just a big chunky heat sink. Saving this for sure, because that could be useful for any number of purposes. Now, why does this one not want to budge? Oh, there it goes. It budged. Yeah, and of course, another heatsink. Weirdly, though, the heat sinks aren't on the same spots on the drive. Let me get at angles that you can see sort of the outline on the light. Yeah, so the light can show the outlines. Yeah, see, they're like in two completely different spots. But these are identical drives as far as I know. DVR 105 PLX. So they should get hot in the same places, unless it's just the sink heat away from the entire bottom plate of the drive. Weird. Oh, and I think they have fans in them too. Which, or is that just vent holes? That's probably just vent holes. Because you wouldn't put a fan in an optical drive, it would just end up drawing dusty, dirty air through it. Although there are two vent hole looking things in the front. Huh. And by the way, it does have its own eject button and a busy LED. But that LED and button were superseded by the ones on the front of the chassis. Another one, these bent over pieces of wire, and then we can relieve the front panel cable. And by the way, this does leave two little boards. This is the headphone board with just the volume control and a 1/4-inch TRS jack. And this board has the front two USB ports mounted to it. And now we're starting to see that board underneath. I'm going to take off this as well. Alright, well that's about as open from the top as it's going to get. And you can see two fans are revealed. And I did not realize there were fans there, but those fans are drawing air in through ducts. You see this plastic piece behind the fan. I'll take that out in a second. And that ducts the air from these holes in the front to the fans. And that's where the filters were. And that should liberate it. Yep. I just got to disconnect it electrically. Ooh, Nidec fans. That's a good brand. 0.07 amps. I mean, and 24 volts. They're not even 12 volt fans. Okay. That seems like an especially weird choice because I don't know why there would be a 24 volt rail in here. But with that very low power consumption, I mean, even at 24 volts, 0.07 amps is still very low. These are probably very low airflow fans and probably meant to be very, very quiet in that regard. So, yeah, there's the ducts. Fairly simple affair. I'll definitely be keeping these too. And then on this board, this is the front panel connector cable, and just based on the markings of the board, it looks like it drove LEDs, switches, that kind of thing. Actually, must have driven the display too, because there was only, this was the only other cable that was connected there. And that was one that was connected here, which is labeled COM2. So presumably this was serial data. And what exactly that serial data did, I don't know. I'm not going to trace it out through this entire board. But it's connected to the display board. But the display board then, of course, connects to all the other boards. So it's it could be anything. Here we have the ATX power connector. This is a jumper going from there to the motherboard. And here we have the ATX motherboard power connector that comes from the power supply, which is retained by a cable clip or cable thing. It's actually retained in a couple of spots. So yeah, and then this 4-pin connector did actually go directly to the motherboard, didn't go through this power distribution board. And then we got this cable, which was attached to, and this cable was attached to the I/O board for power. At least I'm thinking that's the I/O board because that's what the analog inputs and outputs were connected to, ultimately. This little connector went to the rear fan. And the rear fan, I think, was that 12 or 24? I didn't actually look. Oh, it's another Nidec Beta, same model, 24 volt. Yeah, so for some reason they did 24 volts for all the fans. This was going to the motherboard for the power switch, reset switch, power LED, etc. And this cable went to the headphones out on the front of the unit. That goes to this board here. And I believe that was connected to this PCIe card. And then last but not least, we have this cable, which I believe is power going to the front USB ports. Because it and this thicker cable, which is definitely USB power and signal and ground, goes to this thing. So, yeah, that is it for this power distribution board. Again, very high quality construction. It's got these ground clips that the screws go over. And then in the back, it's clipped on by 2 plastic clips. Oh, and another screw that I didn't see. And there we go. That is the power distribution board. And I mean, we got a bunch of inductors, capacitors, and a few multi-pin chips. So I'm wondering if it also generates additional voltage rails from the ATX power input, which, yeah, interesting. And on the back of the board, we got some heavy tracks here for current carrying capability, I guess. Looks like some large ground planes. Don't know how many layers it is. I think it's just a 2-layer board. I think it's just front and back. But yeah, again, very high quality, very neatly done. Looks really nice. There's not too much remaining on here. On the back, there's a couple of boards for these remote I/O and Blackburst and timecode. Just take my word for it. It looks like they have some capacitors and resistors on there for filtering, but nothing really interesting at all. The only other thing I want to do is take out the ATX power supply. And if this machine were newer, like, you know, maybe 5, 8 years old, I might save this power supply, but it was already running for, like, what was it, 8,000 hours that we saw? So I just don't know that I trust this power supply after so many hours of operation, it being, again, 18 years old. I mean, Pioneer, right? They really, I mean, so many screws, but everything's attached so well. I haven't opened up any new or more recent Pioneer equipment, but if anyone knows and can tell me in the comments if Pioneer still makes stuff that's like this anal retentively high quality, I would definitely be interested in buying more Pioneer equipment in the future. Like stuff that's not just for taking apart for novelty. And there's the specifics of the power supply. Very good labeling. It's made by Nippon Co. Limited. Not a company I've heard of, but based on the construction quality of the rest of this thing and just the general feel and heft of this power supply, I'm guessing it's really good. You know, nowadays we're probably all used to modular power supplies, but for its day, this is standard practice, just to route the cables out through this hole. And it looks like you might be able to attach an external heatsink to this, because I believe that's the internal heatsink for the transistors or diodes or what have you. So I guess you could then attach even more heat sinking to it. Again, just looking at that fan, it's very clean. So, I mean, that's why I would save this power. I might save the power supply anyway. I just like having power supplies around because you can use a computer power supply for so many things because it has so many useful voltage rails on here and high amperage, 12 volt and 5 volt in particular. I also like the recessed power switch that you can't accidentally turn it on or off. I mean, that's just, I think, a piece of plastic that's fitted to it aftermarket. And I don't have any power cables that have retention screws, but yeah, this would be really solid for like a small server or something. Again, if it wasn't 20 years old. But also, in my opinion, working with servers quite frequently, kind of what's the point of having all this cable retention, this switch you can't hit by accident, and all this attention to power reliability or having your input power not be cut off, yet this thing doesn't have dual power supplies. So sure, it has a UPS port on the back, which is just a RS-232 port, and so they intend you to connect this to a UPS, but power supply still seems like a big single point of failure, particularly in a broadcast environment. Though then again, in a real broadcast environment, I guess you just buy two of these and just record to both of them simultaneously for extra redundancy. So yeah, I think that's kind of it for this chassis. You can see the mess I made, the pile of circuit boards and other parts. Some of the stuff is actually on the floor because I didn't have room for it on the table. The last thing I want to do though is get the motherboard up and running again on the desk, connect that hard drive to it, and maybe boot it up with a Linux USB stick just so we can look at the file system on that hard drive. I have a feeling it's running Linux just based on the Windows system that came up initially looking kind of like X11. I don't really know for sure, but that's my hunch. So it's probably, the file system is probably ext3 or maybe ext2. I don't remember what was around exactly when this was made. But yeah, and since it's IDE, it's just would be easier to turn on the motherboard this came with and use it with that. Okay, well here's the setup. We got the hard drive over here plugged into the motherboard and the power supply. Obviously power supply, motherboard hooked up to the power supply, all that stuff. VGA out. I got a USB stick in here with Ubuntu 16 point something. I'm hoping that's the 32-bit version because this is just going to be a 32-bit CPU. And of course I got a keyboard hooked up, and that's that. Oh, and I put in a fresh BIOS battery just for fun, even though it's really completely unnecessary for this. So let's flip that on. Good. We got a beep. Alright, cool. Let's hit delete to enter setup. Just kind of curious to nose around the BIOS real quick. Good, it's detecting the hard drive. It's detecting all 256 megs of RAM. The date is blindingly wrong, of course. USB HDD, we'll change that to the first boot device. Second boot device, we'll go for HDD 0. I mean, honestly, the BIOS settings as they were weren't too bad. Yeah, it's booting off the USB drive. Nice. Okay, so this OS is from 2014, so this OS post-dates this machine by about 7 years. But it should run on here. And you know what, I guess while this is booting up, just out of bone-idle curiosity, I want to see if the voltage rails on this power supply are still within reasonable tolerance. 5.13, that seems pretty good. I'm checking these backwards, but we should have... Ooh, 11.5, that's a bit low. 11.6, I guess, if I'm rounding properly. And then this should have a 3.3 volt rail on it. Yeah, 3.3873. Well, damn. Okay, I guess I'll have to find a 32-bit OS to boot into. Never mind. Alright, this is Slax Linux, SLAX, 32-bit version. And I just need to short the power pins. There we go. And this should be a lot more lightweight, so... Oh, thank God, that took forever. Alright. What the fuck? What? Why'd the screen just go blank? Did it just crash? Yeah, caps lock key's not even responding, so... all I did was type ls and some other stuff, and then just... Alright, let's see. ls dev. Okay. I'm just not sure if it would show up as HD or SD. But probably SD. So we got SDB and SDB1. Oh, this is the flash drive. Oh, so SDA is the hard drive. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, so it's all Linux partitions, and there's a lot of them. I'm guessing that 148 gig partition is either the OS partition, that's where the recordings go, or that's a partition just for the recordings. Probably just for the recordings. This is back in the day, so they wouldn't use a large... Oh, it just crashed again. Alright, well, I don't know why it keeps crashing. I'm guessing some service is starting up in the background, and when that starts up, it kills the whole thing. I don't think it's a fault with the motherboard. It's not the fact that I'm running it on a desk like this. It seems to just be based on a certain amount of time passes, and then it craps out. Alright, well, we'll take a slightly different tack. I have the hard drive hooked up to an IDE to USB adapter. I'm going to connect that to another computer over here. Okay, and I know it's awkward that I'm using Windows. I just don't have a handy Linux box to connect this to, but you can see we got a bunch of Linux volumes, and those are almost all part of this drive, and we can see where they're mounted. So we got boot is a whole 55 megs. This is a recovery partition, 102 megs. The home partition, var has its own partition. The root partition is only 102 megabytes. And I guess this Pioneer PON file, it's 0 bytes, but I guess just that file existing indicates to the device that this is the correct drive. It's got Samba installed. Yep, it was X11. And RPM, so it's a Red Hat based OS. Is there a Red Hat version file? No. There's a Pioneer directory in etc. Ah, second boot, but the size is 0. Okay. Oh, I think var was at a different mount point, actually. Nothing... Oh, the home directory is also a different mount point. Let's see what we got in var. Another Pioneer directory. Ah, okay. Root, bin, operator, FTP, and nobody. And DVD recorder service. So I guess you could set up FTP on this thing. That's cool. Oh, and is there a web interface? Huh, but it's got executables in the home directory. Maybe you can download those externally. And you can see date modified. The most recent one is almost exactly 18 years ago from today. And then we got a couple others from 2004. Yeah, and here we got some video files. So yeah, it looks like we got more on here than was playing back when I tried to play off the hard drive. And that was probably user error on my part. But I'm going to dump these to my file system here locally so we can look at some of these video files.
A few degenerate searches for sponge memes later.
Well, I got to apologize to Slax Linux in the first place because apparently it didn't freeze. It was loading the GUI, and that just took freaking forever. However, it does appear to be frozen now, or at least running so slowly that it appears to be frozen. So, yeah, that would have been a dead end anyhow. Oh, I should point out, it's the next day. I left this running overnight as I transferred everything off of the hard drive using the USB interface. And yeah, the drive just had a pretty typical Linux installation on it with some additional like Pioneer software and configuration files related to the GUI and the actual recording software. But I did dump the video or the project directory, and that's where all the videos are. And there were a lot more videos on the drive than I first thought from just hitting play on it. First of all, we do have the lovely video that I shot. I believe that was at the low bitrate, and this should be at the higher bitrate. It doesn't look that great, but that's probably the fault of the camera I was using and the fact that it was over S-Video. And if you didn't like my face and you thought it made you angry, here's something even worse. This is apparently government, or at least C-SPAN surplus, because where it said house floor and then showed a weird-ass video of just like a room, when I hit play, it turns out that no, there are hundreds of files on here, and they are actually of the U.S. House of Representatives. Yeah, there's some man talking, and they're from 2014. I believe these file dates are correct. I don't see why they wouldn't be. And yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, I was hoping to find something exciting. I didn't do a video about it, but previously I bought a hard drive-based video recorder, which was not cleared out before it was sold on eBay, and it contained original footage, or raw footage, from one of Guy Fieri's shows, which was kind of funny and had some amusing moments in it. This, though, probably will not have much in the way of amusing moments in it. I needless to say, I didn't watch all this. I just went through and randomly selected some files and played them, and they're all pretty much the same. And even there's one other directory with all these files in it. Again, just people in the House of Representatives talking while it's in session. So not even like secret government files where we could have some kind of nutty conspiracy. This is probably just all, yeah, you can see it even has the title cards on it. So this was probably just broadcast on C-SPAN. In fact, one of these at the beginning came up with a warning not to rebroadcast it. Well, yeah, there you go. Brilliantly informative. And so that was the Pioneer DVD recorder PRV-LX1, as was. I might salvage some parts off these boards and maybe off this computer, this motherboard, but otherwise the rest is going in the trash. I don't think anyone's gonna be crying over that because, yeah, I can't imagine what this would be used for. I mean, even recording to this device in 2014 and 2015 for the House of Representatives seems kind of old-fashioned. Well, the footage was actually very high quality for standard def. I mean, like, the image quality was good. Didn't really care for the content, just because it's boring and well out of date. So, yeah. Don't want to make this a political video because it's not. I could really give a crap. I was, like I said, hoping it would be something way more interesting, or at least humorous.
And this is brought to you by you. And I'm out here talking about monkey a football. You are really on your period today. Sure is a mess. See you in a bit. Someone's got to clean this up.
We're nostalgic in a good way. I guess if you're a lover of mid-2010s politics, then, well, this video's for you. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I doubt anyone watched this until the end, but if you did, cool. I was just really curious because, like I said at the beginning, I have a thing for industrial or commercial devices like this that just have standard computer parts inside, like standard motherboard, standard power supply even in this one. And yeah, you can just run this without anything having to do with a Pioneer device whatsoever as a computer. Not that that's useful. I'm just saying I think it's interesting that rather than coming up with custom parts and custom ICs for everything, they just use a computer as the base and then add some PCI cards. And then, of course, some other interface boards and all this other junk that's on here. And yeah, I say junk because I can't imagine this is useful for anyone. I'm sure that somewhere in the world there is a person or company still using these and is going to be like, oh, Scott, you shouldn't have just trashed this machine. I would have bought it from you for tens of dollars. And speaking of which, the last thing I have to say is that I looked back at my email history. I thought I bought this a couple of years ago on eBay. I bought it 6 years ago, 2019. It sat in a closet down here in my basement ever since. And even in 2019, this thing on eBay, in good working condition, it was pretty pristine on the inside, went for a total of $65 from a surplus store. That's the only reason I bought it, was because it was relatively cheap, and I just really wanted to see what was inside. I wanted to see how much of it was standard computer parts and how much of it was custom crap. And I was not curious enough to not wait 6 years to find that out. But now I found it out, and I can finally get this thing out of my basement and make room for some other crap that I'm never going to look at for another 6 years. Such is the cycle of life. Goodbye.